American Comics. Knowing everything, starting with investing in Gwen. Chapter 16. The huge movement made by the black man naturally attracted the attention of many people. Oh my god, he actually jumped off the stairs with a person in his arms. Is this rescued woman the same person trapped in the flames? Jumping from such a high building is safe and sound, is he a monster? I can't see his face clearly, so he must be Spider-Man. Impossible, Spider-Man is always wearing a spider battlesuit. Seeing more and more people surrounding him, the black man quickly disappeared from everyone's sight. He doesn't want to be the center of attention and cause unnecessary trouble. Soon, the black man found the little boy and took him away quickly. When George arrived here with some policemen, the fire in the residential building had been put out by the fire brigade. Entering the room, George and others began to search seriously. Have you found out the identity of the person who reported it? Aside from saying that this is a laboratory where some illegal experiments are being conducted, does he have any other information to disclose? George asked a police officer behind him. That person contacted us through a public phone. Moreover, his voice has been processed to a certain extent, and we are temporarily unable to pinpoint his identity accurately. George nodded and said nothing more. While he was searching carefully, he suddenly found a 20 centimeters long centipede device on the floor of the living room. This device has been blackened by the fire. George picked it up carefully, looked at it for a while, and put it into a transparent plastic bag. Intuition told him that this thing should be very critical. The next day, Suyu wandered the street holding Gwen's little hand. After a night of tenderness last night, the relationship between the two heated up again. Gwen, what are you going to do after graduation? Suyu asked Gwen. I originally wanted to apply for a graduate student at Oxford University, but after I met you, I suddenly didn't want to go. Oh. If you really want to study there, I will support you too. Suyu stroked Gwen's hair and said dotingly. Gwen shook her head. No, I don't want to be separated from you. There was a warm current in Suyu's heart, and he hugged Gwen tightly in his arms. If you don't want to study abroad, you can enter our YU Pharmaceutical. I know you have a strong interest in biological research. Definitely, it's okay if you don't want to work, as long as I take care of you. After all I have left is money. Hearing this, Gwen couldn't help but rolled her eyes. What do you mean the poor only have money left? Listen, isn't this too embarrassing? At this moment, a black man hurriedly walked towards this side holding a newspaper. Perhaps because he was too focused on the contents of the newspaper and didn't look at the road, he actually ran straight towards Suyu and Gwen. Although his back was facing the black man, with his excellent spider telepathy, Suyu hugged Gwen and dodged before he hit him. Then he shouted at the black man who didn't raise his head. Hey buddy, watch the road, okay. Nearly hit someone. At this time, the black man was finally willing to look away from the newspaper. After realizing what just happened, he quickly apologized. I'm sorry, I didn't pay attention to the road just now. Seeing that he was so good at Taoism, Suyu didn't intend to pursue it. Just when he was about to take Gwen out of here, he saw a scene that surprised him. On the face of the black man, veins of gold suddenly appeared, like magma flowing in the veins. In just a split second, this abnormality disappeared again. This guy is a bit unusual. With a thought in Suyu's heart, he immediately launched the system's scanning ability. Name: Mike Peterson. Age: 35 years old. Super ability: super strength, super speed. Character evaluation: a diligent construction worker was fired by his boss because of his physical injury. In order to obtain a healthy body and earn money to support his family, he volunteered to become the experimental subject of the centipede project organized by Hydra. Recent encounter: the injected centipede serum is very unstable. If you don't interfere, it is very likely to explode. Investment index: 3.5 stars. After reading these materials, Suyu found that this guy was vaguely familiar. Couldn't he be the centipede warrior in S.H.I.E.L.D. Agent? Although the timeline is somewhat apologetic, Suyu has already become accustomed to this situation after traveling through such a long time. His eyes swept towards Mike's arm without any trace, and sure enough, from the cuff of his right hand, a strange centipede-like device about an inch long was faintly exposed. At the same time, his spider telepathy is constantly perceiving Mike's physical condition. Suyu discovered that there was indeed a powerful force hidden in Mike's body, which far surpassed the scope of normal human beings. It should be that unlucky guy that can help him. Besides, the 3.5-star investment index is worth investing in him once. Thoughts kept flashing through Suyu's mind. Since we are all right, let him leave. Gwen found that after the black man apologized, Suyu was still staring at him. So he persuaded like this. Gwen's words finally brought Suyu back to his senses. He looked at the newspaper in Mike's hand and found that it was full of job advertisements. Are you looking for a job? Suyu asked lightly. Yes, I urgently need a job right now. Otherwise, my 7-year-old child will be hungry. Mike said bitterly. Are you interested in working for me? My company still needs some security personnel. I believe that with your ability, you should be able to do this job. Suyu intends to use this method to draw the relationship between the two closer, and then find an opportunity to help him solve the problem of the centipede serum. Working for you. Mike instinctively became vigilant. You must know that his current identity is still somewhat sensitive, especially the fact that he became the experimental subject of the centipede project must not be known by others. Here's my business card, call me if you think it through. Suyu took out a business card from his pocket and handed it to Mike. After doing all this, he didn't stay any longer, and took Gwen's little hand and walked into the distance. Why do you want him to work for you? Gwen was a little puzzled, not knowing what kind of medicine was sold in Suyu's gourd. It's nothing, I can't see the suffering in the world. Not to mention he is the father of a child and needs this job. The conversation between the two came from far away, making Mike stunned for a while. Can't you see the suffering in the world? He recalled these words, and firmly imprinted Suyu's back in his mind. Whether it was Gwen, Suyu or Mike, none of them noticed that there was a graceful figure in the distance who took pictures of all the scenes they touched. If Suyu saw her face, he would definitely recognize her immediately. Because she is Marvel's famous superhero, Black Widow, Natasha Romanoff. The reason why she appeared here was that she was ordered by Nick Fury to investigate information about the Centipede Warrior. Moreover, she has been monitoring Mike for a while, and she has initially grasped a lot of clues. In order not to startle the enemy, and wipe out all the behind-the-scenes organizations, they have not taken any action against Mike. What is the history of this young man? Natasha Romanoff frowned slightly, not quite understanding the relationship between this guy who appeared out of nowhere and Mike. Forget it, just include him in the investigation list. I really regret that I took such a troublesome task from Nick. After Natasha Romanoff complained, she quickly disappeared into the crowd. When Suyu dragged Gwen to appear in the laboratory of Waiu Pharmaceutical again. Gwen unexpectedly saw an acquaintance here. Drive Connors, why are you here? Gwen asked in surprise. Suyu never mentioned this to her. After I was resigned from Osborne Company, I had nowhere to go. Fortunately, President Su took me in, otherwise I might have slept on the street. Connors is in a good state at the moment and speaks very humorously. Gwen still doesn't know the fact that Dr. Connors is a lizard man. Then can I continue working with you? Gwen asked a little nervously. She respects Dr. Connors from the bottom of her heart. During her time as an assistant, she learned a lot from Dr. Connors, and her research level has been greatly improved, otherwise it would be impossible to develop that genetic medicine in just 3 days. Hey, don't ask me that question. I should ask my boss, that is, your boyfriend. As long as he agrees, I have no objection. Connors shrugged and continued with the experimental research at hand. Hearing this, Gwen turned to look at Suyu with a pitiful look. Su. I agreed. As long as you are happy, you can do whatever you want. Suyu patted his forehead, feeling a little helpless. Good. Gwen flew into Suyu's arms. Suyu turned to look at Dr. Connors. Doctor, if you have any needs, you can tell me anytime. I will fully support your research. But one thing you must guarantee is that when the research results are immature, they must not be used in human experiments without my consent. Suyu's request was reasonable, and Connors naturally had no reason to object. Perhaps because these days are too leisurely, Gwen actually started working that afternoon. And Suyu put more energy on. Centipede warrior, Mike. The night is very cold tonight. Mike took his son to temporarily live in a cheap hotel. Apart from a dirty bed, there was no other furnishings in the hotel room. Dad, I'm hungry. The little boy looked up at Mike. Mike had a sore nose, and then took out a piece of bread from the backpack on the bed. Here, son. The little boy unwrapped the package, hesitated for a moment, and then broke the bread in half. Dad, we are half of us. Seeing his son's sensible appearance, Mike felt even more bitter. You must find a job as soon as possible. Mike thought. At this moment, Mike's ears moved slightly, as if he heard something. He slowly approached the door, put his ear against the door panel, and listened quietly to the sounds outside. Suddenly, he heard the sound of the bolt being pulled outside the door. Mike cursed secretly, and then punched the door very decisively. Bang! The door panel was suddenly smashed by a powerful force. With an indomitable momentum, Mike's fist hit a man in black hard in the abdomen. Puff! Accompanied by a muffled sound. The body of the man in black flew upside down, broke through the fence of the corridor, and fell downstairs. At this moment, there was a bang, gunshot, and a bullet flew past Mike's scalp, shocking him into a cold sweat. Turning his head to look, he found that there were actually two men in black 3 meters away. What is the origin of these guys? Why did you kill me? However, time did not allow him to think too much, and there were several consecutive gunshots. The bullets shot at Mike's head, chest and other vital parts. With the super perception and outstanding responsibility that are far from the Superman class, Mike quickly leaned over and dodged all the incoming bullets. At the same time, he took advantage of the situation to pick up a few planks from the ground, and threw them towards the two men in black. Shish! With a strong wind, the plank arrived in front of the two men in black in an instant. Two sounds of puff sank into their heads, completely destroying their vitality. After finishing the two, Mike rushed into the room, picked up his son on the bed, and ran out the door. Then he jumped down from upstairs and quickly fled to the distance. Daddy, who are they? The little boy asked. Dad doesn't know either. Behind them, several men in black kept chasing them. Maybe it was really bad luck. After running for not long, Mike rushed into a dead end. The exit was blocked by 4 men in black with guns. Seeing this situation, Mike's expression was extremely ugly. If he was the only one, he would have full confidence in killing them all. But now with his son, he couldn't keep his son safe in battle. I don't know who you are. You come at me for everything. Can you let my son go? Mike asked the men in black. As a failed experiment, you are not qualified to negotiate conditions. Whether it's you or your son, they will definitely die today. One of them said in a cold voice. Seeing these people approaching step by step, all 4 guns were aimed at Mike and his son. And Mike is also ready to die. At this moment, a ghostly figure appeared behind those people. Then, a bright knife light pierced the darkness of the night, and flashed across their necks in an instant. Chi 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 chi. Blood splashed, and 4 heads fell to the ground at the same time. Mike quickly covered his son's eyes, his pupils constricted suddenly. This new guy's speed is too fast, even his biochemical man who has been strengthened by the centipede serum can still only see a vague shadow. After finishing off the 4 men in black, the man shook off the blood on the knife and walked towards Mike step by step. As the footsteps got closer, finally, under the dim street light, a familiar face came into Mike's eyes. How can it be? It's actually you. The figure that appeared in front of him was none other than the young man named Suyu who gave him his business card during the day. Is there some surprise, Mr. Mike? Suyu put the knife back into its sheath, stood still not far in front of Mike, and said with a smile. When someone said his name, Mike's heart sank continuously. He knew that Suyu should have been eyeing him early on. Maybe the encounter during the day was specially arranged by him. Thinking of this, Mike said coldly. Mr. Suyu, right. I don't know why you were looking for me. Hearing his bad tone, Suyu spread his hands helplessly. I have no bad intentions for you. I just want to help you. Suyu's excuse is a bit lame, but anyone with a brain thinks he is lying. But other than saying this, he really couldn't find a more reasonable excuse. After all, the two were strangers to each other, and Suyu actually helped him get rid of those killers. No matter how you look at it, it's a little unreasonable. In fact, Suyu didn't want to make a move at first, but Mike has reached a critical moment. If he doesn't make a move, the so-called investment will be ruined directly. You know, the 3.5-star investment index is very precious. To offend those men in black for this, in Suyu's opinion, it is absolutely worth it. But such a reason cannot be explained to Mike Ming. Then thank you for taking the shot this time. I will return your favor in the future. After speaking, Mike was about to leave with the child in his arms. Wait. Suyu called out to him. What's wrong? Mike asked cautiously. Oh, you probably don't know the condition of your body yet. The centipede serum developed by the Hydra organization has major flaws, and it can easily get out of control after being injected into the human body. The final result is, boom, the whole body is completely exploded. You don't want your young children to be orphans in the future, do you? Suyu patiently explained. How did you know I participated in the centipede project? Mike's face was extremely cold, because the female professor who did the genetic modification for him once said that once someone finds out about this, they must be killed and no one will be left alive. Therefore, Mike already had killing intent towards Suyu at this moment. You want to kill me? The corners of Suyu's mouth curled up slightly. With his spider telepathy ability, he can sense Mike's unabashed killing intent. If you don't give me a reasonable excuse, even if you just help me, I will definitely kill you. Mike readily admitted. I have my own intelligence channels, and I also know that those men in black just now are all from the Hydra organization. It also means that you are completely abandoned by them. If you don't believe me, you can check their right wrists for Hydra tattoos. Suyu said calmly. With a skeptical attitude, Mike walked to the corpses and checked them out. Sure enough, on their right wrists, they all have the Hydra logo tattooed on them. This shows that Suyu did not lie to him. Even so, Mike couldn't trust Suyu. I always feel that he has no good intentions for me. What? Still don't believe me? This is so sad. If this is the case, then we will have an indefinite future. I hope you will not regret it when your life ends. When the voice fell, Suyu turned around and was about to leave. Before he took a few steps, Mike's voice came from behind him. I believe in you, how are you going to help me? Mike sadly found that he seemed to have no other way to go except to believe in Suyu. Suyu turned to look at Mike, stretched out 2 fingers and said. 2 options. First, strip off all the centipede serum in your body, and naturally there will be no body explosion. The disadvantage is that from now on you can only become a common person again, but I can promise you a job. As for the second option. Speaking of which, Suyu took out a bottle of ice-cold blue liquid from his pocket. This is a special drug developed by our company. After injecting it into the body, it can make up for the lack of stable centipede serum. Just inject it into your body, and your physical problems will be completely solved. This potion is also obtained from Suyu's previous feedback when making a certain investment. The reason why it wasn't used on Dr. Connors last time was because the system indicated that this potion had no effect on him. Hearing Suyu's 2 proposals, Mike thought for a moment, and finally replied. I choose the second option. For Mike's choice, Suyu was not surprised at all. After all, how can a person who once possessed great power be willing to return to being weak? After he handed the bottle of ice blue potion to Mike, he handed him an envelope. I found a house for you, which contains the address and key. After you settle down, don't forget to report to my company. In the future, you will have to work part-time to pay off your debts. Otherwise, won't my work be in vain? Okay, I hope you can become the most competent security personnel in our company, goodbye. After finishing speaking, Suyu's figure turned into a blurry shadow, which disappeared after a few flashes. Watching Suyu's figure disappear, Mike looked at the blue potion and the envelope in his hand, feeling mixed feelings for a moment. He really didn't understand Suyu's real purpose. Not only help him solve the unstable problem of centipede serum, but also provide him with housing and work. The pie in the sky was unexpectedly caught up by him. Daddy, shall we get out of here? I'm afraid. Mike's son whispered. The series of things that just happened have exceeded his cognition. Why Dad can jump from several floors and be safe? Why are those bad guys chasing them down? Why would that young uncle help them? There are too many doubts in his mind. Okay, let's leave now. Mike looked at the corpse on the ground, and then carefully scanned the surroundings. After finding that no one was following him, he quickly hid into the darkness with the child. When Suyu came home, it was already 10 o'clock in the evening. The moment he pushed open the bedroom door, he instinctively sensed something was wrong. He found that the drawers in the bedroom were open, and the bed seemed to have been moved. Moreover, there was an unfamiliar aura in the room. He fully released the spider telepathy's ability, and the whole room was shrouded in his perception. HMPH, I found you. The killing intent flashed across Suyu's face. With a stretch of his right hand, a Tang Hengdao appeared instantly. Zheng. The long knife came out of its sheath and stabbed at the corner of the ceiling above his head with a sharp edge. Before the attack fell completely, a dark figure fell from the ceiling. Narrowly escaped Suyu's fatal blow. After the man landed, he ran towards the window in a flash. Want to run? How can it be so easy? A sneer appeared on Suyu's face. His figure came first, blocking the way of the stranger in an instant. The tang knife in his hand pierced the man's shoulder. Suyu wanted to capture him alive and find out his origin. Facing Suyu's attack, the man reacted quickly, bent down, and accurately avoided the blow. However, before he straightened up, Suyu had already changed his move, and the blade should be stabbed as a slap. Bang! The blade of the knife hit the man's chest heavily, causing him to lose his balance and lie on his back in an instant. Uh-huh. The man let out a muffled grunt. The moment he fell to the ground, he took out a pistol and shot at Suyu continuously. Bang bang bang. Bullets shot at Suyu's vitals. Facing such an attack, Suyu's face became calm, and his body turned into afterimages, moving about in the room. Easily dodged all the bullets. Taking advantage of the man's time to change the magazine, Suyu appeared in front of him in a flash, and slashed at him fiercely. The man's reaction was not slow, he immediately raised the body of the gun to block. Ding! Kai! The barrel of the gun was split into two in an instant, and the momentum of the long knife continued to slash at the figure. Facing Suyu's fierce attack, the man turned over in embarrassment, and stuck the long knife under the corner of his clothes, smashing the floor tiles to pieces. Dodging Suyu's blow, the man got up quickly. However, a figure appeared in front of him like a teleportation. A punch hit his stomach heavily. The powerful force pushed his body to fly backwards, hitting the wall fiercely, causing him to lose his mobility in an instant. Seeing the intruder lying against the wall, unable to move, Suyu turned on the lights in the room. When he saw this person's face clearly through the light, he was suddenly a little surprised. It turned out to be a woman. This woman is wearing a black tight tactical suit, which perfectly outlines her graceful figure. A head of brown hair covered half of her fair cheeks. Although she hadn't seen the whole picture clearly, Suyu could be sure that this woman's appearance was not low. Who are you? Why did you sneak into my house? Suyu asked coldly. It doesn't matter if she is a beautiful woman, if she has bad intentions for herself, she will kill her directly. Hearing Suyu's question, the woman did not respond immediately. She slowed down for a moment, clutching her belly, and slowly stood up while supporting the wall. She tossed her hair back, exposing her entire cheek. I didn't expect you to be so strong. This time, I made a little miscalculation. The woman wiped away a strand of blood from the corner of her mouth, and said lightly. Seeing the woman's face clearly, Suyu was really dumbfounded this time. Because she is very familiar with the appearance of this woman, and she is exactly the same as the Widow's sister in the Marvel movie. Could this woman be Black Widow, Natasha Romanoff? Suyu thought. It's just that she doesn't understand why Black Widow sneaked into his house, there should be no intersection between the two. You haven't answered my question yet, who are you? Why did you sneak into my house? Suyu pressed again. Natasha Romanoff. Black Widow said lightly. Then he threw a certificate at Suyu. Suyu took a look and felt a little surprised. SHIELD. Are you from SHIELD? Good. Natasha Romanoff nodded. Even if it's people from SHIELD, sneaking into my house at night and doing some sneaky tricks, isn't it a little too much? Suyu casually threw the ID to Black Widow and asked. HMPH, I'm just here to complete the task. If you hadn't done anything illegal, I wouldn't be here. Yu immediately laughed angrily. Illegal thing. Tell me, what illegal thing did I do? He moved a chair and sat in front of Black Widow, looking at her indifferently. You. Black Widow was momentarily at a loss for words. She just suspected that Yu had something to do with Project Centipede, maybe someone from Hydra. Then sneaked into his home late at night looking for clues. Who knew it was blocked? Now she was certain that Yu was at least as genetically modified as she was. If such a person is not serving an official institution, his background is definitely very complicated. Hee, so you have no evidence. Yu laughed. Yu's appearance made Black Widow's teeth itch. Although there is no evidence, but can you explain why your strength far surpasses that of normal human beings? Stronger speed and strength than Captain America, superb fighting ability, how do you prove that you are not a terrorist? Hearing this, the corner of Yu's mouth twitched slightly. How can I prove this shit? Shouldn't you be the one to prove to me that I did something to endanger this country? However, Yu was too lazy to discuss this issue with her. Now he's in a bit of distress and doesn't know what to do with Natasha Romanoff. After thinking for a moment, he decided that it would be better to let her go. After all, he has no conflict with S.H.I.E.L.D. If Natasha Romanoff really disappears from him, he will be in trouble in the future. Okay, I won't pursue the matter of you sneaking into my house. You go. Yu rubbed the center of his brows, and said helplessly. Walk. You beat me like this, how do you let me go? Natasha Romanoff frowned. The two ribs near the lower abdomen seemed to be broken at the moment. When she moved a little, cold sweat broke out from the pain. Although she is also a genetically modified person with a strong self-healing ability, it will take at least half a day to heal this kind of injury. Yu suddenly had black lines all over his head. I said, you seem to be confused about the form. Not killing you directly is already giving S.H.I.E.L.D. face, what else do you want? Punchy. Yu asked coldly. Natasha Romanoff seems to be determined that Yu dare not do anything to her. She went straight to Yu's bed and sat down, then said, I'm hungry, prepare me something to eat. The two were fighting to death just now, but Natasha Romanoff turned around and made such an outrageous request. Yu was really surprised by her brain circuit. Yu. I said, even if we are not enemies, we should not be considered friends, right? Why do you? Hearing this, Natasha Romanoff didn't take it seriously. You, a super rich man who owns 2 companies and is worth nearly tens of billions of dollars, what's wrong with treating a beautiful woman to dinner? Before, she had conducted a very detailed investigation on Yu. In addition to knowing that he is a super rich man, he is also known to be the boyfriend of the daughter of George Stacy, chief of the New York City Police Department. Through investigation, she found no substantive evidence related to Yu and Hydra. Tonight, she just sneaked into Yu's house with an attitude of giving it a try, hoping to see if she could get some unexpected clues. Who knew that he was almost beaten to death? But Yu's attitude towards her now gave her an intuition that Yu should not be from Hydra. Otherwise, how could he talk nonsense to her? She would have turned into a corpse long ago. At the moment, Natasha Romanoff has some interest in Yu. She wanted to know what was the secret of this young man. How did he obtain the terrifying strength? Facing Natasha Romanoff's stalking, Yu was speechless. He picked up the phone on the table and asked the servant to prepare a dinner and bring it. When the servant delivered the dinner to this room, he saw the bullet holes in the wall and the strange woman. She shrank her neck and stepped back quickly. Natasha Romanoff turned on the cooking mode as if no one else was there. This woman. Yu narrowed his eyes. He doesn't think that Natasha Romanoff is big-chested, brainless, and nervous. Such a person is not qualified to be a super agent of the Red House. The reason why she acted like this was because she still wanted to get close to her and obtain some valuable information. However, Yu is not worried. After all, he is not an agent of the Hydra organization, and has no direct conflict with S.H.I.E.L.D. Even if some small secrets are revealed, it shouldn't be a big deal. At this moment, he suddenly thought of something. System, start the scanning function on Natasha Romanoff immediately. Yu ordered from the bottom of his heart. The next moment, a blue light curtain that only he could see unfolded in front of him. Name: Natasha Romanoff. Age: 84 years old. Super ability. Weak. Character's biography. He was trained as an agent by the former Damao agent since he was a child. After the body was transformed by the former Damao government, his aging speed was greatly delayed, and his immune system and ability to fight against blows were enhanced, plus the original years of various physical and mental abilities. After training, he has become a deadly poisonous spider, Black Widow, and later betrayed the former Big Hairy Agent organization, Red House, and joined the Avengers. Recent changes. 3 days later, I will be chased and killed by the Red House agent, and escaped with difficulty, the time and place of the incident. Investment index. 4 stars. What the hell is super ability, weak? Suyu secretly complained. Natasha Romanoff has some super abilities, but not many, the ability attribute cannot be classified. Hearing this reason, Suyu called him a good guy. Murder. This isn't Kai Gugwo's contempt, isn't it? Yes, Natasha Romanoff's super ability is really not easy to classify, and the system's evaluation seems to be fine. Huh. The investment index is as high as 4 stars, which is really surprising. Suyu was shocked, and looked at Natasha Romanoff with some fiery eyes. As if aware of his strangeness, Natasha Romanoff looked at Suyu with a hint of wariness in his eyes. What do you want? Think. Suyu seemed to have thought of a famous meme from his previous life, so he immediately continued. Natasha Romanoff was stunned for a moment, and then finished the rest of the dinner in a leisurely manner. Elegantly wiped her mouth with a napkin. Little guy with no hair, you are too young. After speaking, she went straight to the door. Just when she was about to walk out of the room, she suddenly turned around and said, I will continue to pay attention to you, I hope you will not be caught by me. Watch as Natasha Romanoff disappears. The look on Suyu's face was inexplicable. Hee, just don't get stuck in it, I don't have the patience to treat you like Gwen. At this moment, the familiar system prompt sounded in his mind. Ding. Investing in Mike is successful, investment feedback is in progress. Ding. Investing in Mike is successful, investment feedback is in progress. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the detailed instructions for making the perfect centipede serum. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the super ability, Steel Defense. Hearing the system's prompt tone, Suyu understood that Mike had successfully injected the blue potion that neutralized the deficiency of the centipede serum and successfully solved the physical problem. Moreover, this system reward also made Suyu very satisfied. Detailed explanation of the production of perfect centipede serum. With this kind of thing, as long as Suyu is willing, he can cultivate an army of biochemical humans at any time. As for the super ability, Steel Defense, through a systematic explanation, Suyu understands that this is a kind of super ability that can harden the skin at will. According to the system introduction, after using this super ability to harden the skin, even armor-piercing bullets can't break through the defense. Is there really such a strong effect? Suyu launched this super ability with the attitude of giving it a try. The next moment, a strange energy emerged from the body and acted on the skin, making the originally soft skin instantly hard as iron. Suyu tapped his arm lightly with his fingers, and unexpectedly heard the sound of golden iron. It looks pretty powerful. I wonder if it can withstand the slashing of a sword. As soon as he thought of it, he did it, and with a sound of chang, Suyu drew out the Tang Hengdao, and slashed down on his left arm fiercely. There was a loud clang, and the long knife was thrown into the air by a force. With the power of Suyu's slashing, even a steel pipe with a thick arm can be cut with a single blow. However, at this moment, his arm was completely intact, not even a trace was left. Is this the Steel Defense? It's really strong. He is very satisfied with this result, because this super ability once again made up for his lack of defense. Master of Martial Arts, Spider Strength, Spider Telepathy, Spider Reaction, Super Regeneration, Animal Manipulation, Steel Defense. This is all the super abilities that Suyu currently possesses, and he has almost no obvious shortcomings. I am now a hexagonal warrior, right? Suyu thought to himself. Hydra has a branch in New York. At this moment, sitting here is an advanced agent, acute eyes, of Hydra. He looked like he was in his 50s, with a tall stature and a fierce face. Sir, all the agents we sent to destroy the test items have lost contact. I doubt they've all been killed. A Hydra agent reported to Acute Eyes. As soon as possible, determine the exact coordinates of their deaths, and investigate the cause of their deaths. Temporarily shrink the power, suspend the Centipede Warrior destruction plan, and wait for my next arrangement. Acute Eyes said lightly. Yes, sir. Go and carry out the order. Acute Eyes waved his hand, signaling the agent to leave. Who the hell dare to attack Hydra? Although S.H.I.E.L.D. is also investigating the Centipede Warrior, based on the information I have, they are not so fast. From what he said, it seems that he also has Hydra spies in S.H.I.E.L.D. At the same time, in a high-end hotel in New York, Phil Coulson, Ward, and Agent May are having a group meeting. Intuition tells me that lizard man should have been dealt with by someone, otherwise he wouldn't have completely disappeared. I suspect that his disappearance should be related to those guys who made the antidote. Agent May said in a cold tone. Director George has clearly told me that the person who made the antidote is his daughter Gwen Stacy. With her ability, it seems that she can't solve that lizard man. Phil Coulson touched his chin and said, hey, if she can't do it, it doesn't mean that others can't do it. Ward chuckled, and then took out a stack of documents from a briefcase. Look at this guy's information, I think you should have some special discoveries. Phil Coulson accepted the information provided by Ward in surprise, and read it carefully. After a while, he handed the information to Agent May. According to the information, this Suyu is the person behind the scenes who supported Miss Gwen in making the antidote. Not only is he a super rich man, he's also Miss Gwen's boyfriend. It is said that when Miss Gwen lacked the tissue samples of the lizard man, he unexpectedly obtained a complete lizard tail from nowhere. This ability is quite impressive. Phil Coulson's brows were furrowed. Based on his experience, he could deduce that this Suyu definitely had a big problem. I suggest investigating this guy carefully. Agent May suggested after reading the information. I agree with Agent May's proposal. Ward said with folded arms. Who will be sent to complete this task? Phil Coulson looked at May and Ward. Is there a more suitable agent than these two? However, before May and Ward could speak, a familiar female voice came from outside the door. Leave this task to me to complete. Ward's pupils shrank, and he quickly took out a pistol from his waist and aimed it at the door. Agent May was also like a female leopard, instantly tensing up all the muscles in her body. Only Phil Coulson remained calm. Because, he is no stranger to the person who made the sound. It's just that he didn't expect that this woman's ability was so strong that she could touch them so close and eavesdrop on their conversation. If she hadn't taken the initiative to expose, the three people in the house might not have known that someone was eavesdropping outside the door. With a click, as the door was pushed open, Natasha Romanoff walked in as if no one was there. Long time no see, Phil Coulson agent, May agent, Ward agent. Natasha Romanoff greeted the three of them. Seeing that he was an acquaintance, Ward put away his pistol, and May also put down his guard. Natasha Romanoff, why are you in New York? Could the director send you to help us catch that lizard man? Phil Coulson said with a faint smile on his face. No. I have other tasks. As for the content of the task, sorry, I need to keep it secret. Natasha Romanoff came to a liquor cabinet, poured herself a glass of spirits and drank it down, then turned to Phil Coulson and said. You seem to be seriously injured. Who did it? Agent May stared at Natasha Romanoff's slightly pale cheeks, and asked aloud. Hey, you really have sharp eyesight, you are indeed an elite agent from Iron Cavalry. Natasha Romanoff praised, and then said helplessly, that guy you just talked about did it. Sneaked into his house today to search for some clues, but was caught by him. If I hadn't revealed my identity as S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, I might not be able to come back. Hearing this, the expressions of Phil Coulson and others changed. They are no strangers to Natasha Romanoff's ability. Even Agent May has less than a 10% chance of winning against Natasha Romanoff. It was such a person who almost couldn't come back when facing Suyu. This shows how terrifying that guy's strength is. Combined with the information provided by Natasha Romanoff, we can confirm that the lizard tail should have been cut off by Suyu from the lizard man. It's just that I don't know whether the lizard man actively cooperated with him, or was forced to defeat him and cut off his tail. Agent May thought for a while and said. It should be that he defeated the lizard man and cut off his tail. Don't forget the poisoning incident of the lizard man that day. If you guess correctly, the bomb containing the antidote should be shot into the sky by Suyu. The reason why we couldn't be sure of this before is because we didn't know that Suyu had such strength. Ward straightened out his thoughts and said. Just then, Natasha Romanoff chimed in. If it's Suyu, with his strength, he definitely has the ability to cut off one of the lizardman's tails. Although the time I played against him was very short, I can be sure that he didn't use his full strength when facing me. At this moment, Natasha Romanoff made an astonishing discovery. It seems that almost all the major events in New York recently have Suyu behind them. What kind of role does this guy play in it? Natasha Romanoff murmured. The three of Phil Coulson discussed for a while, and finally agreed to Natasha Romanoff's proposal that she would be in charge of investigating Suyu. And they have all reached a consensus that they are only responsible for collecting intelligence, and they will never do anything without substantive evidence that Suyu intends to endanger the world. After all, judging by the way the guy treats Natasha Romanoff, he doesn't seem like an enemy of S.H.I.E.L.D. The next day, when Suyu came to the laboratory of Waiu Pharmaceutical, Gwen told him the good news. Drive Connors has developed a brand new gene agent that can regenerate a broken arm. This gene medicine does not have any side effects. With that said, Gwen pulled Suyu and hurried to the laboratory. Boss Su, you're here. Connors greeted Suyu with a smile. At this time, Suyu noticed that Connor's broken right arm had recovered. Moreover, his own form has not undergone any mutations. Is the effect of the new genetic medicine stable? Suyu asked. He is too lazy to pursue Dr. Connors' use of himself as a test subject now. After all, he knew very well how obsessed Connors was with a pair of healthy arms. The effect of the drug is very stable. For the time being, there is no defect that the effect of the drug will weaken as time goes by after injection. Next, I want to recruit some disabled people to conduct human trials. If there is no problem, this drug can be marketed. Connors was very excited. He has been researching the topic of curing human defects, and today, he has finally made an epic-making achievement. After injecting this drug, will normal humans have super abilities? Suyu asked worriedly. It won't have any super abilities, it's just treating the defects of the human body. Otherwise, the world will really be in chaos. Connors knew what Suyu was worried about, so he explained. That's good. Since this is the case, you can recruit some disabled people for human trials as soon as possible. I believe it won't be long before your name will be known all over the world. This is a good thing, and Suyu will naturally support it. Oh, I seem to have forgotten something very important. Gwen patted his head suddenly and said. Then, she unzipped the satchel and began to rummage inside the bag. What are you looking for? Suyu asked in surprise. Tomorrow night, there will be a charity dinner at the Hilton Hotel in New York. All the big-name entrepreneurs and socialites throughout New York were invited. The front desk of the company handed over the invitation to me and asked me to hand it over to you. Gwen's cheeks were a little red, and now everyone in the company knew that she was Suyu's girlfriend. Soon, she took out a gold invitation card from her bag and handed it to Suyu. Suyu glanced roughly. A charity dinner. It seems interesting. The second day, 8 o'clock in the evening. Luxury cars gathered at the Hilton Hotel in New York. When Suyu entered the hotel with Gwen on his arm, he immediately attracted everyone's attention. Wearing a long black dress and a sparkling amethyst and diamond necklace around her neck, the well-dressed Gwen overwhelmed the demeanor of all the women in the hall. Her delicate face brightened the eyes of many wealthy people in the hall who were used to beauties. Wow, that lady is so pretty, does anyone know who she is? Her male partner is so young, I don't know why he appeared at this dinner party. I have been in the mall for so many years, and I never knew which big shot in New York matched him. At this moment, the host of the banquet introduced the identities of Suyu and Gwen to everyone. Dear guests, Mr. Suyu and Ms. Gwen Stacy have just entered the banquet hall. Mr. Suyu is the boss of Waiu Pharmaceutical and Waiu Beauty Industry, and Ms. Gwen is the daughter of Mr. George Stacy, the chief of the New York City Police Department. Hearing the host's introduction, there was an uproar in the hall. I didn't expect that young man to be the boss of Waiu Pharmaceutical and Waiu Beauty. You must know that the valuation of these two companies is more than $30 billion. He is handsome and rich, no wonder he has such a beautiful girlfriend. We must find an opportunity to get to know Mr. Suyu later, maybe we can find opportunities for cooperation. Although it was the first time to attend such a party, Suyu felt very bored. It's nothing more than a group of powerful guys gathering together in the name of a charity dinner to expand their connections. After the singing and dancing show just now, several waves of people have come to know Suyu. Suyu had no interest in this and just dismissed them perfunctorily. Su, you don't like such an occasion. Gwen picked up the red wine on the table and gently clinked glasses with Suyu, and asked with a smile. It's really not interesting. What I hate the most is engaging in interpersonal relationships. If I have this skill, I might as well bring the beautiful Miss Gwen to a hearty battle. Suyu glanced at Gwen ambiguously, and said narrowly. Gwen couldn't help but give him a blank look. The relationship between the two has heated up rapidly recently, and she has long been used to Suyu's unruly appearance. It's not worthless to attend such dinners. Maybe I can really meet some very powerful people. With that said, Gwen pointed to the lonely figure sitting in a corner drinking alone and said. Look at that man, he is the helm of Stark Industries, Tony Stark. He is the world's largest arms supplier, and he is simply rich. Tony Stark. Iron Man. Suyu knows the history of Stark Industries headquarters also located in New York. Moreover, Iron Man himself has a very high appearance rate, and most New Yorkers know him. Especially as a playboy, some of his gossip news is the talk of many people after dinner. But it was the first time for Suyu to see Iron Man himself, and what surprised him the most was that Iron Man seemed extremely depressed at the moment. Just sitting alone in the most inconspicuous place, seems to want to completely anesthetize himself with alcohol. Some beautifully dressed women wanted to invite him to a dance, but he waved them away impatiently. Did something happen to that guy? I don't even want women who come to my door. This doesn't fit his playboy personality. Suyu rubbed his chin and smiled lightly. Gwen shrugged. Who knows? You can't give up on yourself because of a broken relationship, can you? Suyu took a sip of the red wine, then took Gwen's little hand and walked towards Iron Man. Su, what are you going to do? Do you want to meet Tony Stark? Definitely, I'm very interested in the famous Iron Man. Soon, the two came to Iron Man. Isn't it boring to drink alone? Together, how about it? Suyu sat down next to Iron Man familiarly, and raised his wine glass at him. Tony looked at Suyu, and glanced at Gwen casually, a wave of fluctuation flashed in his calm eyes. Your girlfriend is beautiful. He gave Suyu a thumbs up. Thank you Mr. Stark for your compliment. Suyu responded with a smile on his face. At this moment, his pupils shrank suddenly. He noticed that the skin on Tony's collar and neck was densely covered with purple lines. Moreover, this pattern has a tendency to spread to the face. Suyu felt that this scene was familiar. He remembered that in Iron Man 2, Tony had serious physical problems due to palladium poisoning. The symptom manifested was that, with the nuclear reactor on his chest as the center, countless purple patterns like spider webs appeared. When the purple pattern covers the entire body, Iron Man Tony will die completely at that time, unless a new substance that can replace the palladium element is found. However, Suyu was not 100% sure that the Iron Man in front of him was poisoned by palladium. So, he issued an order to the system in the bottom of his heart. System, start the scan function on Iron Man immediately. Name, Tony. History Stark. Age, 42 years old. Super ability, Armor of Steel. Character's biography. A genius scientist with extremely strong ability, one of the world's largest arms suppliers. Due to a kidnapping conspiracy, the chest was pierced by shrapnel, and his life was at stake. In order to save himself, he made the arc reactor and used it as a source of energy to operate. He created the first set of steel armor and continuously iterated it, becoming a household name. Iron Man later joined the Avengers. Recent encounter. Palladium element poisoning, severely damaged body functions. Investment index, 4.5 stars. The information scanned by the system confirmed Suyu's guess. It really is palladium element poisoning, no wonder he is in such a bad emotional state now. Suyu thought to himself. Anyone who encounters this kind of thing when he is high-spirited will not be in a good mood. Definitely, what Suyu cares most about is Iron Man's investment index as high as 4.5 stars. Once the investment is successful, the rewards must be very generous. Is there something wrong with Mr. Stark's health? Suyu pointed to Tony's neck and asked. He had decided to step in and help Tony get rid of the palladium poisoning problem. Hearing this, Tony's eyes suddenly became stern. What do you know? There are problems with his body, and very few people know about it. He didn't believe that Suyu could be sure that there was something wrong with his body just by the simple lines on his neck. Seeing his alert look, Suyu shrugged and said helplessly. Sorry, Mr. Stark, maybe what I just said was a bit abrupt. Just saw the lines on your neck, very similar to some kind of substance poisoning. You should be troubled by this matter recently, right? Besides Suyu, Gwen blinked her big eyes. She didn't expect Suyu to have such a strong power of observation, and she could tell that there was something wrong with Tony Stark's body after just a short contact. After Suyu mentioned it, she also noticed the purple lines on Tony's neck. Based on her attainments in the fields of biology and chemistry, it can be judged that this is indeed a symptom of some kind of elemental poisoning. Tony glanced at Suyu with his cold eyes, and suddenly laughed. Hee hee, amazing, you are the first person to see something wrong with my body. Originally, I came to the charity dinner today to donate part of the assets of the huge Stark industry, and then quietly wait for the trial of death. It's just that I didn't expect to meet such an interesting young man as you at this boring party today. After finishing speaking, he patted Suyu's shoulder heavily. If life wasn't too short, we should have become very good friends. It's not too late to be friends, life is short, seize the day, don't you think so, Mr. Stark? Suyu raised his wine glass and gestured slightly to Tony. Haha, you are right. Life is short, seize the day, come, drink. After the initial acquaintance, Tony told all about the arc reactor on his chest and palladium poisoning. He didn't have much time left, and he felt that there was no need to hide these things. After listening to his statement, Suyu smiled and said, You don't need to be overly desperate, I don't think palladium poisoning is unsolvable. Isn't it enough to find the replacement element for this thing? Tony shook his head. It's not as simple as you think. I have tried countless times, but I still can't find a substitute for palladium. If there is still hope, I wouldn't give up on myself like this. However, Suyu smiled mysteriously, and asked the waiter at the banquet to bring pens and paper. Then quickly write down a few formulas on paper, as well as some notes. After all this was done, he handed the paper to Tony. Look at this. Maybe it can solve the problem you are facing now. Suyu Chungju is in the chest. When Suyu invested in the past, the system fed back a lot of messy things. I didn't expect this brand new element extraction method to be used in this place. Tony glanced at him in surprise, took the paper handed over by Suyu and read it. The more he looked, the brighter his eyes became. In the end, his excited body almost trembled. Maybe for others, it's just some incomprehensible formulas. But as a top scientist in the world, he can naturally see that this is a method of extracting certain elements. Moreover, this element has a great probability of being able to replace the palladium element, thereby solving his physical problems. What Suyu did was like sending charcoal in a timely manner. It is no exaggeration to say that he was his savior. Tony spread his arms and gave Suyu a warm hug. Su, thank you. You gave me hope to live. Although no experimental verification has been carried out, my intuition and experience tell me that what you give me should be able to help me solve the problems in my body. Tony was so excited that his body trembled slightly. Hey, this world can do without anyone, but it absolutely cannot do without Iron Man. Otherwise, that would be too boring. Suyu laughed. While the two were chatting and laughing, a familiar figure walked towards the three of them holding a wine glass. The visitor was about 170 centimeters tall, wearing a red evening dress, and his curvaceous and graceful figure attracted the eyes of countless old men in the hall. Su, look, that woman seems to be looking for you. Tony motioned to Suyu. Suyu turned his head and found that the woman was staring at him without blinking. Hi, Mr. Su, I didn't expect to meet you here. Natasha Romanoff rushed to Suyu with a smile. Gwen looked at Natasha Romanoff, then at Suyu, and suddenly felt a sense of crisis in her heart. As if aware of her strangeness, Suyu took her little hand and stroked it lightly, as if swearing his sovereignty. I didn't expect to meet Ms. Natasha Romanoff here. Tony, don't you have a date? I think your chance has come. After speaking, Suyu winked at Tony. How smart Tony is, he immediately understood that Suyu probably didn't want to get too involved with this woman, so he used him as a shield. Miss Natasha Romanoff, may I ask you to dance? Tony held out his right hand to Natasha Romanoff in a gentlemanly way. I just received a big gift from Suyu, now it is definitely a matter of course to block the gun for him. Sorry, Mr. Stark, I'm not feeling well enough to dance. After finishing speaking, Natasha Romanoff showed resentment towards Suyu. It seems that she is unwell, as if she has something to do with Suyu. Tony looked at Suyu with meaningful eyes. Even Gwen felt that there seemed to be something tricky between the two of them. Suyu was speechless, not understanding what kind of medicine this woman was selling in her gourd. Could it be that this woman wants to use a beauty trick in order to dig out my secrets? Suyu secretly asked. However, Natasha Romanoff just came over to say hello, then turned and left. Tony couldn't bear the excitement in his heart and wanted to go back to conduct experiments as soon as possible. The party was not over yet, so he left the hotel. At the same time, Hydra New York branch. Sir, we have found out the real reason for the death of those companions. This is detailed information. A Hydra agent handed Acute Eyes an investigative report and several photos. Acute Eyes took the file and read it carefully. A moment later, with the sound of pung, he slammed his fist heavily on the table, and said in a cold voice. It seems that someone helped the centipede warrior escape from us. The strength of this person who shot him is very extraordinary. Even the top agent may not be able to achieve this level of beheading with one knife. Is there any clue of who shot it? Acute Eyes asked. We have sent a large number of agents and spies, but we have not found any clues about the person who made the move. We've found something else, though. After speaking, he took out another document and handed it to Acute Eyes, which contained many photos of Mike in security clothing. Our agent found that this centipede warrior is currently working as a security guard in a Chinese pharmaceutical company. The most puzzling thing is that his centipede serum seems to have stabilized, and there is no sign of going berserk at all. So, my subordinates suspect that the centipede experiment was successful on him. Hearing this, Acute Eyes froze suddenly. Are you sure his centipede serum has stabilized? Acute Eyes asked solemnly. Sure. After getting an affirmative answer, Acute Eyes tapped his fingers on the table lightly, and fell into deep thought. The centipede warrior means a lot to Hydra, we have to keep this guy in our hands. Send a message to the dead woman and ask her to capture the centipede warrior as soon as possible. If people from S.H.I.E.L.D. block you, kill them without mercy. Acute Eyes gave the order coldly. Yes, sir. Seeing his subordinate's back disappear, Acute Eyes' eyes became colder. Centipede warrior, I used a trump card to catch you this time. I owe a great debt to Colonel Stryker for this trump card, and you will be honored. The next day, when Suyu woke up, it was almost noon. Seeing Gwen lying in his arms, who was still asleep, Suyu's eyes were extremely gentle. Gwen has been extremely attached to Suyu ever since she went to meet her parents. Or maybe she sensed the threat posed by Natasha Romanoff last night, and she offered to sleep at Suyu's house. This girl. Suyu pampered Gwen's little head, then left a light kiss on her cheek, then got dressed and got up. At this moment, the familiar system prompt sounded in his mind. Ding! Investing in Iron Man is successful, investment feedback is in progress. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 2 HBARO5 nanomechas. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the super ability, Boundary of Gravity. Hearing the system's notification tone, Suyu was overjoyed. Unexpectedly, there was such a harvest just after waking up. He also had to admire Iron Man, who only got the extraction formula for that new element last night. It took less than a day to extract it and use it. This ability is really too strong. HBARO5 Nanomecha, I don't know what it looks like. With curiosity, Suyu thought about it. 2 electronic products like smart watches appeared in the palm of the hand out of thin air. This thing is a mech. So small. Suyu couldn't believe it. He followed the system prompts and put one of the smart watches on his wrist. Then tap lightly on the screen. The next moment, the smart watch disassembled instantly, and a layer of silver and white metal spread from the wrist to the whole body like water waves, covering the whole body in the blink of an eye. Cool. Suyu looked at himself in the mirror, his eyes were full of shock. The nano mecha on his body looks more high-end than the one developed by Steel. Especially the two protrusions on the top of the head, like the sharp horns of a devil. Try it and see how it works. He walked to the window, pushed it open, and his brain immediately gave the flight command. On the soles of his feet, the metal form quickly transformed, forming two propulsion devices. Boom! Accompanied by two blue flames rising, with a swoosh, Suyu's figure instantly appeared in the distance and suspended quietly in the midair. Look at the limit speed. He stretched his arms back, and with a loud bang, Suyu quickly flew towards the distant sky. Mach 1, 2 Mach, 3 Mach, Suyu kept speeding up. When the final speed reached around Mach 8.5, the limit was finally reached. The speed is more than 4 times that of the F-22 fighter jet, which is really ridiculously fast. Suyu secretly praised in his heart. Test the weapon system again. He drove the mecha to a deserted place. Then he activated the Palm's weapon system and aimed at a mountain a kilometer away. Kai. A blue laser shot out from the palm of his hand and hit the mountain in an instant. In the next second, there was a boom, and with the flying of rocks and trees all over the sky, half of the huge mountain was annihilated by a single blow. Although, this power is much stronger than some missiles. Suyu was also taken aback by the attack power of the laser weapon. Fortunately, the power of the laser weapon can be adjusted. Otherwise, if we fight the enemy in the city, we don't know how many innocent humans will be affected. Suyu thought to himself. In short, he is quite satisfied with this mecha, because his intelligent system is very powerful. Almost as soon as a thought is formed, the system can capture the brain waves and immediately issue corresponding instructions. Give the other mecha to Gwen. In this case, I don't have to worry about her safety. Suyu said to himself. At the same time, he had another plan in mind. He decided to develop centipede serum. On the one hand, I want to try to see if that thing is still effective for me. On the other hand, she also wants to strengthen Gwen's body. After all, the common human body is still too fragile, and the ability to deal with danger is still too weak. Suyu tested the performance of this mecha for a while, and then drove it back to his residence. Gwen was up when he reappeared in the room. Honey, this is the lunch I specially prepared for us, see if it suits your taste. In the restaurant, Gwen brought out several dishes from the kitchen. Stir-fried vegetables, fish-flavored shredded pork, braised pork and a bowl of seaweed egg drop soup. During the gap between falling in love with Suyu, Gwen specially learned how to make longguo dishes. This is the first time she has shown in front of Suyu. Thank you, Gwen. Suyu smiled slightly, picked up a piece of braised pork with curiosity and tasted it. Surprisingly, it tasted pretty good. It's delicious, Gwen, you have the ability to cook longguo cuisine. Suyu gave her a thumbs up. Hearing Suyu's praise, Gwen, who was still a little nervous, had a bright smile on his face. Really Su, does it taste really good? She also tried it with a piece of braised pork, and she felt that it was not bad. After lunch, Suyu took out one of the HBAR-05 nano mechas. Gwen, I have a present for you. With that said, Suyu put the mecha in the form of a digital watch on Gwen's wrist. Digital watch. Gwen was surprised. This is not just an electronic watch, the next step is to witness the miracle. Under Gwen's puzzled gaze, Suyu operated on the screen of the digital watch for a while. In the blink of an eye, the digital watch turned into a shapeshifting state, forming a mecha that perfectly covered Gwen's body. Suyu discovered by accident that the mecha fit tightly to the skin, outlining Gwen's beautiful figure. Oh, God, this turned out to be a mech. Su, how come you have such a powerful mecha? It looks so many times more advanced than the one developed by Iron Man. Gwen exclaimed. Suyu carefully explained all the functions and operation methods of the mech to her. Gwen's learning ability is very strong, and he basically mastered the operation skills in half an hour. Watching Gwen's mech disappear into the sky in a stream of light, a smile appeared on Suyu's face. Now, let's try the effect of the newly acquired super ability, Gravity Realm. Investing in Iron Man was successful, he got 2 mechs and 1 super ability. Previously, he only focused on studying mechs, and hadn't tried the effect of boundary of gravity. In the back garden of the villa, Suyu appeared here. He stretched his right hand forward and pointed his palm at a potted plant more than 10 meters away. The realm of gravity, activate. The fluctuation of invisible instantly enveloped the potted plant. Pung, accompanied by a bang, the potted plant burst instantly under a terrifying pressure, and turned into powder. Even the ground where the potted plants were located was pressed out into a circular pothole with a diameter of 1 meter and a depth of about 30 centimeters. Seeing this scene, Suyu secretly clicked his tongue. You must know that he just made a random shot just now, and didn't use all his strength. Afterwards, he activated the gravity realm again, covering the sky more than 30 meters away from Fang Yuan. At this moment, a group of birds were about to fly across the sky above his head, and happened to crash into the envelope of the realm of gravity. Whoosh! Their bodies all lost control and fell from the sky like dumplings. Just when they were about to hit the ground, Suyu controlled the direction of gravity, freezing them all in midair. Hey, this gravity realm seems to be very useful. Suyu thought to himself. Afterwards, he snapped his fingers lightly, and the realm of gravity disappeared. The birds regained their mobility again, and flew away in panic. When Gwen drove the mecha back to the villa and appeared in front of Suyu, she was extremely excited. Turning the mecha into an electronic watch, again, she suddenly threw herself into Suyu's arms. Su, it's so cool, this mecha is too powerful. I feel like with this mecha, I can also be a superhero. Gwen's little face was flushed with excitement. Haha, as long as you like it. With the mecha on my body, I can rest assured. Suyu stroked Gwen's little head and said dotingly. Su, thank you. Although she didn't know where Suyu got this mecha, Gwen knew that the value of this thing was immeasurable. What's the relationship between us? You still treat yourself like this. The two of them got bored for a long while, then went out to Waiu Pharmaceutical. At the door, Suyu saw Mike, who looked hale and hearty in security clothing. Hey Mike, you look in good spirits. Suyu greeted him with a smile. I would also like to thank Mr. Su for his help and shelter. Otherwise, I might have to sleep on the street with my child. Mike has great gratitude and respect for Suyu. Suyu not only helped him solve the hidden dangers in his body, but also gave him a job to support his family. He owes a lot to this favor. Work hard, our company's security work depends on you. Suyu patted Mike on the shoulder and encouraged him. He wasn't talking nonsense in this sentence. The reason why he didn't bother to arrange Mike into Waiu Pharmaceutical was because he liked Mike's super ability. In the future, Waiu Pharmaceutical is destined to develop many things beyond the imagination of the world, and will definitely be targeted by many forces. At that time, security forces will become extremely important. After the two entered the company, Gwen said softly. Su, you actually gave him a job. You are so kind. The two met Mike on the street that day, and he was looking for a job. We met by chance at that time, and Suyu said that he would give him a job. Unexpectedly, it has actually come true now. Gwen didn't know that so many things happened between Suyu and Mike, and Suyu also got huge amounts of benefits from Mike. Hey, do you really admire me as your man? Come on, give me a kiss. Saying that, Suyu pressed his cheek to Gwen. Gwen has a generous personality, so naturally she won't be cowardly. Soon, the two appeared in the laboratory, and Suyu handed over the secret recipe of centipede serum to Connors. Boss, this is. Connors looked at Suyu suspiciously. A method of making a genetic strengthening agent without negative effects. Suyu said lightly. Hearing this, Connors was a little surprised, he didn't expect Suyu to give him such a precious thing. Aside, Gwen was shocked. Genetic agents for strengthening the body are not uncommon, and many powerful organizations have conducted in-depth research in this area. But genetic strengthening agents without side effects are rare. Su, what are you going to do? Gwen asked with a serious face. Once the secret that Suyu owns this thing is revealed, I'm afraid it will be very troublesome. Whether it is the government or some terrorist organizations, I am afraid they will come to trouble Suyu. Drive Connors, I hope you can develop 3 genetic medicines as soon as possible. This world is too dangerous, we need to have some power. Connors nodded. More and more Superman-like incidents have been on the news recently. Many violent conflicts have affected the common people. In such a big environment, if you don't have a certain strength, it may be very difficult to live in peace and stability. Moreover, he who once possessed great strength still has some taste. If, as Suyu said, this centipede strengthening potion had no side effects at all, then he would not give up the chance to become a superhuman. At the same time, a red car was parked more than 200 meters from the entrance of Waiu Pharmaceutical. Sitting in the car was a woman wearing sunglasses and a black leather jacket with an extremely indifferent expression. She cast her gaze on Mike at the door, then took out a photo from her pocket, and compared it carefully. After confirming that it was correct, she completely tore up the photo and waited quietly for the opportunity. At around 5 o'clock in the afternoon, Suyu walked out of the company. Hello, Mr. Su. Mike greeted Suyu. Is it time to change shifts? If you are short of money, you can advance some salary from the financial department. Suyu smiled at Mike. Thank you, Mr. Su. Mike was even more grateful to Suyu. Suyu smiled and walked straight to his McLaren. Suddenly, he frowned slightly, and casually glanced at Red's car. With his excellent spider telepathy ability, he can perceive people in the car seems a little unusual. If nothing else happens, the guy in the car should also be a superhuman. What is the purpose of hiding here furtively? Suyu thought to himself. He couldn't believe that it was just an accident that this kind of person appeared here. From where the car was parked, it seemed that they could monitor the troubles at the gate of Waiu Pharmaceutical at any time. Suddenly, he realized something. Mike. This guy's target must be Mike. You must know that Hydra has been silent since Mike was rescued by Suyu the night before. He didn't believe that this organization would completely abandon Mike. Leaving aside the lost personnel, Mike originally, as an experimental subject, is of great significance to this organization. Since Mike is mine, I can't hand him over to you. Suyu has made up his mind to pay attention. At 7 o'clock in the afternoon, after Mike got off work, he bought some fried chicken, hamburgers and Coke and rushed to the residence Suyu had prepared for him. His son had been thinking about these things for a long time. Now that he has a job, he can fully satisfy his son's simple request. Just as he entered an alleyway, less than 300 meters away from his residence, the road ahead was blocked by an indifferent woman. Seeing this scene, Mike narrowed his eyes slightly. This woman has a posture of blocking the road, and she has malicious intentions at first glance. However, now the centipede serum in his body has been completely stabilized, and his own strength has also increased to a certain extent. Mike is full of confidence at the moment, and naturally there is no reason to back down. He looked at the woman and walked straight forward. Just when the two were about to pass each other, the woman moved. She spread her hands in 5 fingers, and sharp steel thorns stretched out from her fingertips, piercing into Mike's body neatly. With this appearance, people who have seen X-Men will be able to recognize her identity at the first time. Death Girl, Colonel Stryker's right-hand man. Mike has been paying attention to the movement of the dead woman, and seeing such a strange change at this moment, his heart trembles slightly. Hastily turned sideways, and at the same time punched the dead woman's chest. Snort. The dead woman let out a cold snort. With 5 fingers spread out, he grabbed Mike's fist. Mike's powerful punch was directly resisted by the Death Girl. At the same time, her sharp alloy claws easily scratched Mike's fist into deep marks. This situation was beyond Mike's expectations. After being injected with the centipede serum, Mike knew exactly how terrifying his power was. However, when he collided head-on with this woman, he didn't even have the slightest advantage. Realizing this, Mike had to cheer up and deal with it carefully. Is this the strength of the centipede serum experiment? It's really disappointing. A mocking look appeared on the face of the death woman. Then, she grabbed Mike's arm and slammed it violently, and Mike's body was thrown into the air. It fell heavily on the wall of the alleyway. Pung! A big hole was smashed out of the solid wall in an instant. Before Mike stood up, the figure of the dead woman approached instantly. 5 sharp claws ruthlessly inserted into Mike's lower abdomen. Ah! Mike let out a scream, and quickly punched the woman's head. The woman retreated and easily dodged the blow. Then she stared at the wound on Mike with burning eyes, wanting to see how his healing ability was doing. The reason why Colonel Stryker agreed to let her take action was that he would have the opportunity to obtain some centipede serum from Hydra in the future to improve the strength of his subordinates. Dead Girl originally is also very curious about the effect of the serum developed by Hydra. Seeing that the dead woman did not continue to attack, Mike took the opportunity to stand up. I saw that the wound on his body that was pierced by sharp claws began to heal slowly. After about a minute, all the wounds on his body healed as before. Seeing this scene, the Death Girl nodded secretly. Although this healing ability is far behind her, it is already considered powerful. At least, as long as there is no fatal attack, basically there will be no fear of life. It seems that the centipede serum developed by Hydra still has some skills, no wonder they value you so much. Come along with me honestly, in this way you can also suffer less. The Dead Girl said coldly to Mike. So this woman is from the Hydra organization. It seems that if she is not dealt with, it may be difficult to get out today. Aware of this, Mike did not respond to Death Woman. Instead, he kept silent and rushed towards her savagely. When he got close, he swung his fists again and again, and attacked the dead woman like a storm. Faced with such an attack, the Death Girl's face was calm, her body kept moving left and right, avoiding all the attacks with ease. Your fighting ability is really rough. Is this your ultimate strength? If that's the case, then I won't be bothered to play with you anymore. The voice fell to the ground, when Mike's fist attacked again. The Death Woman looked at the right time, and her sharp steel claws ruthlessly inserted into Mike's right arm. Ah! Mike screamed. The ninja was in severe pain, and his left fist hit the Death Girl's head. However, to deal with such an attack, the Girl of Death repeated her old trick, and another steel claw was also inserted into Mike's arm. Finally, she suddenly closed the distance between the two of them, and hit Mike hard on the forehead with a head hammer. Mike was dizzy for a while, the scene in front of him was completely dark, and his body fell heavily to the ground. Physical fitness is not bad, but the fighting ability is too poor. The Death Girl shook her head, then picked up Mike's body and walked out of the alleyway. At the entrance of the alleyway, a Mercedes-Benz was parked. She stuffed Mike into the car, followed by herself. Then the Mercedes-Benz kicked the accelerator and drove away quickly. At this moment, a figure appeared at the entrance of the alley as if teleporting, looking at the direction of the Mercedes-Benz, his eyes narrowed slightly. This person is Su Yu. Just now Mike fought with the dead woman, and he was a witness from beginning to end. That woman should be the Death Girl. The development of this plot is a bit unexpected. Hydra is actually involved with mutant. Things are getting more and more interesting. If the branch of Hydra is taken over by me, they should go crazy. A cruel look flashed across the corner of his mouth, and Su Yu's figure disappeared in a flash. The Mercedes turned around, and finally came to an underground parking lot. Death Girl and others took Mike and appeared at a wall. One of the Hydra agents took out an electronic device and took a picture on the wall. The next moment, an electronic combination lock appeared on the originally empty wall. The person quickly entered the password, and after iris verification, click, a portal slowly emerged on the wall. Let's go. The dead woman walked in first. Others followed. When Death Girl brought Mike to appear in front of Acute Eye's face was full of admiration. As expected of Colonel Stryker's right-hand man, Ms. Yuriko's strength is really extraordinary. My task has been completed. I hope you can abide by the agreement. When a stable centipede serum is developed, you must give priority to satisfying us. The dead woman said indifferently. It's natural. With this successful experimental subject, I believe it won't take long before we can develop a centipede serum without defects. Please also ask Ms. Yuriko to bring a message to Colonel Stryker. Hydra cherishes the friendship with him very much. Acute Eyes said with a smile. There was a hint of sarcasm on the corner of the Death Girl's mouth. Bullshit, friendship is just an exchange of benefits. If given the chance, Colonel Stryker would spare no effort to send all of you terrorists to hell. These words, the Death Girl will naturally not say it. I will definitely bring the word to you, said the dead woman. At this moment, Mike slowly woke up from the coma. At this moment, his body was injected with a lot of anesthetics, and he couldn't lift any strength from his body. Seeing acute eyes and death woman, thick anger flashed in his eyes. Hee hee, very nice eyes, I hope you can still look like this when you are being dissected and studied. Acute eyes glanced at Mike with an extremely cruel tone. Just then, there was a huge amounts of roar outside. Then, bursts of gunfire continued to come from outside. The complexions of Acute Eyes and the dead woman changed at the same time, both had a premonition that something was wrong. What happened? Go and see. Acute Eyes yelled at a Hydra agent. Yes, sir. That Hydra agent quickly ran outside. However, no matter how fast he ran out, he flew back upside down. Boom. Accompanied by a dull impact, the agent flew backwards vomiting blood. The body smashed heavily on a table, smashing the whole table into tatters. However, everyone didn't have time to pay attention to the agent, and all stared at the door with solemn eyes. The sound of footsteps getting closer. Finally, a figure wearing a silver mecha stepped in. Seeing the appearance of the person who came, whether it was the dead woman or Acute Eyes, there was a look of doubt on the face. Because they don't know the origin of this guy at all, and they don't understand why he broke into this branch of Hydra. Who are you and why are you attacking us? Acute Eyes asked coldly. However, the silver-armored figure ignored his question. He glanced around and found that Mike's life was not in danger, so he turned his attention to Acute Eyes and the dead girl. It doesn't matter who I am, what matters is why I'm here. The indifferent voice of the Yinjia figure came from inside the mecha. Purpose. What is your purpose? When he said this, Acute Eye's right hand was already reaching for the pistol at his waist. My purpose, definitely, is to destroy you all. My purpose, definitely, is to destroy you all. Su Yu's indifferent words echoed throughout the room. Hearing these words, the expressions of Acute Eyes and the dead girl changed at the same time. They never thought that the other party had such a purpose. Could he be from S.H.I.E.L.D.? Acute Eyes couldn't help thinking, only this organization is incompatible with them Hydra, there is me without him. Now that Su Yu has expressed his attitude, Acute Eyes naturally does not want to sit still. The next moment, a pistol appeared in his hand. Pung pung pung. Accompanied by a series of gunshots, all the bullets shot towards Su Yu, but were blocked by the mecha on the surface of his body. Clang clang clang. The bullet hit the mecha, causing a series of sparks. However, the armor was intact. Hee hee, are you tickling me? Su Yu chuckled, then stretched out his right hand flatly, aiming at Acute Eyes with his palm. Kai. A finger-thick blue laser shot out, passing through the center of Acute Eyes' forehead in an instant, destroying all its vitality. Who would have imagined that the head of HYDRA's New York branch would be beheaded so easily by Su Yu? Seeing that the boss was killed, there were still several agents in the house who kept shooting at Su Yu. However, their attacks were all in vain, and even the mech's defense couldn't be broken. Su Yu shot a few random lasers, and they were all easily wiped out. After more than a dozen breaths, the entire room, except for Mike and the dead girl, was dealt with by Su Yu. At this moment, even Mike looked at Su Yu with some fear in his eyes. He didn't know the identity of the person in the mecha, but with his brutal methods, he might not be able to attack him. If it's just himself, he's not afraid of death. But when he thought that after his death, only his 7 or 8-year-old son would be left alone, Mike became very anxious. Miss Baihizi, it's your turn now. Su Yu said flatly. The dead woman's pupils shrank suddenly. She never expected that the guy in front of her could call out her own name. However, he didn't know anything about his identity. Who are you? How do you know my name? The dead girl said coldly. People who are about to die, it doesn't make sense to know this. As soon as Su Yu finished speaking, in his right palm, a thumb-thick laser shot out towards the dead woman's chest. However, this time his attack was not fatal. The dead woman raised her right arm casually, and accurately intercepted the laser with her palm. The dead woman looked at the large piece of flesh and blood that fell off the back of her hand, and frowned slightly. Although such an attack is not fatal, it really hurts. Under Su Yu's gaze, the skin on the dead woman's hand began to regenerate and recover at a speed visible to the naked eye. In just 3 to 5 seconds, it was back to normal. As expected of Wolverine's super regenerative ability, this regenerative ability is simply invincible. Su Yu murmured. I just don't know who is stronger or weaker than him in the recovery ability of the dead girl. After the palm recovered, the dead woman began to attack on her own initiative. She took a leap and came behind Suyu. The sharp steel claws clawed at Suyu's chest fiercely. Seeing this situation, Suyu had no intention of avoiding it at all. Let her steel claws fall on the mecha on her body. Squeak. Accompanied by a piercing sound of gold and iron rubbing against each other, the mech was unscathed. Such a result made the dead girl stunned for a moment. You must know that adamantium is already the toughest alloy in the world. In the past, when her steel claws touched other metals, they could usually cut them into countless pieces like melons and vegetables. However, facing the mecha on this mysterious person, he couldn't even break the defense. At the moment when she was in a daze, Suyu slammed out a punch, hitting the dead woman's abdomen accurately. Her body flew upside down under a strong force, across a distance of more than 10 meters, and hit the wall heavily. The wall made of alloy was knocked out into a human-shaped pit. To Suyu's surprise, even with such a powerful attack, the death girl still did not lose her mobility. She stood up tenaciously again, her eyes were very calm. Kill. She waved her steel claws and rushed towards Suyu quickly. Hehe, you are really tenacious. Suyu smiled indifferently. Chi 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 chi. Laser beams shot out from his palm, all of them hit the dead woman's body. If it was a laser, the death girl would naturally be fearless by virtue of her tyrannical recovery ability. However, Suyu shot too many lasers, almost covering all parts of the dead woman's body. Ah! Finally, the intense pain caused the death girl to scream out. The flesh and blood on her body surface almost melted, and she looked extremely miserable at this moment. Even so, she still rushed towards Suyu stubbornly, wanting to continue to attack him. However, when she was less than 2 meters away from Suyu, her body finally froze. At this moment, the flesh and blood of her whole body has almost disappeared, leaving only a silver-gray skeleton standing in place. As for her viscera, they were completely turned into fly ash under the hot temperature of the laser. Seeing this scene, Mike only felt the hairs all over his body standing on end, and cold sweat dripped from his black cheeks. The guy in the mecha was really ruthless. In order to kill the woman, he even melted her whole body with a laser. Thinking about the pain made his scalp tingle. At this moment, apart from him and the man in silver armor, there were no other living people in the room. Is it my turn next? Mike swallowed with difficulty. The next moment, a man in silver armor appeared in front of him. Then, a palm knife was cut on his neck. Mike, who just woke up, fell into a coma again. When he woke up again, he found himself lying on a remote street corner. Mike carefully checked all parts of his body and found nothing wrong. I'm still alive. Mike was a little unbelievable. He didn't know why the guy in the mecha didn't kill him. But no matter what the reason, being able to live is already quite a luxury. Oh, have to buy another fried chicken, Coke and burger for my son. After taking down Hydra's branch, Suyu returned to the villa by controlling the mecha. Just after taking a shower and putting on clean clothes, his cell phone rang. Hi, who is it? Suyu asked on the phone. It's me, Tony Stark. Iron Man's voice came over the phone. Hello, Tony. Has the new element I provided you been extracted? Can it replace palladium and become the energy source for the ARC's reactor? Suyu asked, pretending not to know. I called just to say thank you. Through the equation you gave me, I extracted a completely new element. This element can completely replace palladium and become the energy supply material for the ARC reactor. Brother, I owe you my life. Are you free tomorrow? Let's meet for a drink. Iron Man's excited voice came from the phone. He is very grateful to Suyu. If not for his help, he might still be on the verge of collapse, quietly waiting for death to come. Definitely free, you make an appointment, let's have a drink. Suyu resolutely agreed. Alright then, I'll send you the address. At 10 o'clock the next morning, New York's top rich club. Hi, Suyu, my good brother, it's so nice to meet you. When Suyu just stepped into the gate of the club, Tony greeted him enthusiastically. And gave him a big hug. Haha, Tony, your current state is much better than the last time we met. Suyu took a serious look at Tony and smiled lightly. After solving the problem of death, I will naturally not be as decadent as before. I keep this favor in my heart, let's just have fun tonight. After finishing speaking, he clapped his hands with two pops. Then, under the leadership of a graceful blonde beauty, a group of extraordinary women gathered around here. Brother Su Yu, these women come from all countries in the world. They are all top quality, you can choose whichever you like. Tony waved his hand generously. The corners of Su Yu's mouth twitched slightly, remembering that in the previous life before time travel, the greatest sincerity in entertaining friends at that time was to wash their feet and massage one stop. Never expected to come to the world of American comics, Iron Man will treat himself in a similar way. Then, I'm not going to be polite. After speaking, Su Yu began to nod among the crowd. You, and all of you, come here. Su Yu ordered 7 girls in a row. Tony's eyes almost went straight when he saw this scene. Brother Su Yu, amazing. Tony gave him a thumbs up. Nothing, young and in good health. That's when Tony and Su Yu let loose at the club. New York Shield Station. With a snap, Phil Coulson threw a stack of documents on the table. Look, the Hydra branch in New York has been taken over. Everyone in the branch was killed, and no one survived. Hearing the news, Agent Ward's pupils shrank. A icy coldness flashed in his eyes. He picked up some photos in the file and looked at them. When he saw the scene of acute eyes being shot through a hole in the forehead and dying miserably, his heart ached slightly. No one knew that Grant Ward was actually a spy for Hydra to break into S.H.I.E.L.D. He was cultivated by Hydra agent John Garrett from an early age. The two have a very close relationship, like father and son. And John Garrett, on the surface, is an 8th-level agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., but in fact he is a key member of Hydra, code-named Acute Eyes. Ward never expected that the always cautious, Acute Eyes, would be on his own territory. Who is it? If I find out who is behind the scenes, I will definitely make you regret this recklessness. Ward roared frantically in his heart. He is like a child who has lost his father, and he really wants to find a place where no one is there to cry. Although we don't know who did it, this incident undoubtedly solved a big problem for S.H.I.E.L.D. With that, Phil Coulson took the photo of John Garrett in Ward's hand. Look at this man, John Garrett, the 8th-level agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. If he hadn't been killed this time, I'm afraid we still don't know that he is a spy of Hydra. After speaking, he picked up another photo, which showed a silver-gray alloy skeleton. Identified by some experts, this skeleton is from a mutant. Unfortunately, because her flesh and blood are almost melted, it is temporarily impossible to determine her true identity. Speaking of this, Phil Coulson's tone was a little dignified. Hydra and mutant are involved, which means that this organization will become more and more difficult to deal with. Don't we have any clue about the identity of the shooter? Mutants appear in the Hydra branch, they should do something big. Agent May put her hands on her chest and said with a frown. Phil Coulson shook his head. The murderer shot very neatly and left no valuable clues. When the voice fell to the ground, he looked at Natasha Romanoff, who had been silent all this time. Miss Natasha Romanoff, have you found anything? Natasha Romanoff shook her head. Sorry, I just found out about this. At this moment, her brain was running crazily, trying to clear up some clues. Because she has been paying attention to Su Yu, Natasha Romanoff knows that Mike has become the security guard of the Chinese pharmaceutical company. Also, as Centipede Warrior, he seems to have solved the centipede serum instability issue. Based on her understanding of Mike, with his own strength, it is absolutely impossible to do this. But what if with the help of Su Yu? A rich man with assets exceeding tens of billions, super ability, and a top-notch scientific research team under his command, Su Yu possesses unimaginable energy. Natasha Romanoff can conclude that if Hydra knows that Mike has solved the unstable problem of the centipede serum, it will definitely bring him back to the Hydra organization to study it. Now, Hydra has not taken any measures against Mike, which is a bit strange no matter how you look at it. Could it be that Hydra has taken action against Mike without my knowledge? And Su Yu took over the Hydra branch in order to help Mike. The more Natasha Romanoff analyzed, the more she felt that this possibility was very high. However, judging from the photos just provided by Phil Coulson, it doesn't look like Su Yu's handwriting. Judging from the death wounds of these people, it should all be resolved by a powerful laser weapon. This is not in line with Su Yu's fighting habits. Is it you? Natasha Romanoff thought to herself. Just then, she received a text message on her cell phone. If you want to know the secret of the Hydra branch being taken down, please come alone. A detailed address was left in the text message. Seeing this message, Natasha Romanoff frowned slightly. First of all, this message is anonymous, so she does not know the identity of the other party. Secondly, she doesn't know what the purpose of the person who sent this message is. What if he has bad intentions towards her? Therefore, whether she wants to go to that place in hesitation. At this moment, Phil Coulson looked at several people in the room and said, "Since we can't discuss the results, we will launch all the agents in New York to see if we can find out the key clues." Ward and May nodded. Seeing that Natasha Romanoff was absent-minded, Phil Coulson asked, "Miss Natasha Romanoff, do you have any questions?" Although S.H.I.E.L.D. successfully recruited Natasha Romanoff to serve S.H.I.E.L.D., after all, she has only been in the job for a short time, and Phil Coulson cannot guarantee her absolute loyalty. After all, even Level 8 agent John Garrett is a spy for Hydra. As far as he knows, Natasha Romanoff used to be a top agent trained by the Red House. Although he has betrayed that organization and successfully joined S.H.I.E.L.D., who can be sure if this is a bitter plan by the Red House to plant spies in S.H.I.E.L.D.? Therefore, for Natasha Romanoff, he has always maintained a certain degree of wariness. Without. Natasha Romanoff shook her head. Then is there any update on your investigation of Su Yu? Phil Coulson continued to press. No. I have been closely monitoring him, and there is nothing unusual about his behavior. Natasha Romanoff withheld information about Mike. She wanted to wait until she got a breakthrough from Su Yu before making any plans. If her previous guesses are true, then Su Yu and Hydra are absolute opposites. Such a stance is very beneficial to S.H.I.E.L.D. She was afraid that after telling all these things now, what actions S.H.I.E.L.D. would take against Su Yu would cause unnecessary trouble. Phil Coulson nodded. Su Yu has a secret, that's for sure. Now our main enemy is Hydra. As long as we are sure that Su Yu will not harm the society and is not our enemy, don't provoke him too much. Phil Coulson also has a lot of information on Su Yu. The energy in this young man is very clear. S.H.I.E.L.D. will not treat someone as an imaginary enemy just because he has a super ability. Okay. Natasha Romanoff responded. Phil Coulson's thinking coincides with hers. After the meeting ended, Natasha Romanoff looked at the text messages in her mobile phone and fell into a tangle. After a while, she took a deep breath. As an agent, even if you know that someone has bad intentions for me, you should go and inquire about it. I didn't expect that after a few days of Anshung's life, I became less courageous. Natasha Romanoff smiled self-deprecatingly, and then drove to the place mentioned in the text message. At the same time, Su Yu also walked out of the rich man's club. At this moment, he is refreshed and in better condition than ever before. He looked at his watch. It was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I always feel like I forgot something important. What exactly is it? Su Yu frowned and thought for a while, then suddenly he thought of something. Natasha Romanoff, by the way, at 3 o'clock this afternoon, Natasha Romanoff will be besieged by the agents of the Red House. The location seems to be. Thinking of this, Su Yu planned to go over and get involved. Because, when the system was scanned for Natasha Romanoff, her investment index was as high as 4 stars. This is also the main reason why Su Yu let her go that day without killing her. Besides, hiding his identity is an easy thing for Su Yu. It was nearly 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and Natasha Romanoff drove to the gate of an abandoned manor in the suburbs of New York. She got out of the car and looked around, feeling a little uneasy. Because this place is too remote, it is very suitable for hijacking, kidnapping or murder. At this moment, the gate of the manor opened slowly, but no one came out to greet him. Natasha Romanoff hesitated for a moment, and finally stepped into the gate. Behind her, the door was slowly closed again. I'm here, should you show up too? Natasha Romanoff stood in the middle of the yard, shouting. Just then, he heard a footstep. Then, from behind the manor, a tall man in a gray suit flashed out, and finally the man stood a few meters away from her, looking at her indifferently. Who are you? She sensed a familiar aura from this man. Red House Advanced Agent, Salbov Ivanov. Hearing the man's introduction, Natasha Romanoff understood that she had been tricked. Swipe. She was extremely fast, took out a pistol from her waist, and was about to shoot at the man in front of her. Natasha Romanoff knew very well that they would never let her go if they betrayed the Red House. It's just that he didn't expect that the other party would use such a method to seduce himself this time. However, her gun was not aimed at the man yet. Just hearing a bang, Natasha Romanoff's pistol was hit by a bullet and dropped instantly. Sniper. Natasha Romanoff's pupils narrowed. With a flash of figure, he quickly ran towards the door. However, at this moment, she felt a pain in her shoulder, and when she turned her head, she found that there was an anesthetic there. Cursing angrily, Natasha Romanoff pulled out the anesthetic and continued running towards the door. However, just when she barely ran to the door. But he was blocked by two strong men, and they punched out at the same time. Boom. Natasha Romanoff's body was knocked back again and again by huge amounts of force. As soon as she stabilized her figure, she saw a group of figures approaching from all directions, surrounding her in the middle. Natasha Romanoff, don't struggle anymore, come back with us to accept the organization's trial. Thanks for watching.